Thank you for everyone's patience who's already in the room. It's great to meet you all. My name is Emma Kriskinans. I'm head of marketing here at Tyk, and I'm going to be your host today for this special Tyk session all about how to build a governed, scalable AI supply chain that doesn't fall apart under pressure. And just to address the obvious elephant in the room, no, I'm not Buddha Bhattacharya. Unfortunately, he's been taken ill today, and so I'm jumping in along with Sophie, our head of product, to support Leon to help make sure that the show must go well. The show goes on really. So if there's any clunky bits or any technical hiccups along the way, please bear with us. And obviously, we're all wishing Buddha a very speedy recovery, and we hope to see him on another webinar very soon. So before we get stuck in, what would be really good to do would be a bit of a poll around where everyone is in the room right now in their AI journey. So we're going to put up a poll on the screen now, and you're going to have about 30 seconds to answer that. So the poll is, how prepared is your organization to adopt and scale AI? So you'll see that there's 4 different options along the scale, from not at all prepared, no clear strategy or governance in place, all the way up to fully prepared with robust governance, strategy and oversight being well established. So like I said, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to take your pick, and don't overthink it. I think obviously when you're in a potentially big organization and maybe teams are operating at different speeds, or maybe even just getting to grips with different parts of the process, it might be that it's hard to think through that answer straight away. But really, we're just going for a gut feel here, because we want to make sure that the information that we give you along this session today is going to be as useful as possible. So, excuse me. So yeah, seeing some answers come in, I think we'll give just maybe 10 more seconds. But very interesting and positive results. Just give it a few more seconds before it ends. Great. So yeah, as you can see, what's really heartening to see is that people in the room have started on this journey. That's fantastic. We haven't got anybody here that's not at all prepared, which I think we could forgive people if they said that they would, because we're at such a fast-paced, ever-changing environment at the moment. But also, understandably, we don't have anyone in the room feeling fully prepared. So I think somewhere in the middle is kind of what we anticipated. And that's what we're seeing a lot of, excuse me, as we're seeing from people trying to experiment with AI, what they can get, how they can get the most out of it, starting to outline an AI strategy for their organization. As they move towards operationalizing it, that's where really some of these questions are coming up. And that's exactly what we're here to talk today about. So we're going to unpack today what it takes to build what we call a structured AI supply chain, something that we've been developing and shaping here at Tyk based on what we've seen in real-world AI adoption. So that covers things like vendors, interfaces, data, tooling, and of course, your APIs. All the different layers that need to be aligned if you want your AI systems to scale reliably and also securely. And we're also going to touch on the trade-offs that teams have to face when they start making these decisions in practice. So, also how these choices show up in your architecture, your infrastructure, and the way that you actually deliver AI across the organization rather than, strategizing about it. So, like I mentioned before, we're joined today by 2 of the brains behind all of this at Tyk. So let me introduce you to Sophie, our head of product. She's going to take us through the supply chain concept in a little bit more detail, what it looks like in practice and how it can help structure your approach, sorry. And Leon is our head of engineering. He'll be walking us through a little bit around the Tyk AI Studio, which is our governance-first platform that's helping teams manage the complexity of this in real time. And there'll be plenty of time for questions, so please just drop them in the chat, drop them in the Q&A. There are going to be probably 3 points that we'll answer those. So if we don't get back to your question straight away, don't be alarmed. We'll cover it off at the right time. So without further ado, over to you, Sophie, to kick us off. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Okay, so we're going to start off thinking about how modern smartphones are built. So if you think about Apple's approach, they control everything critical to the iPhone's value proposition, the hardware, the software, the App Store. And if you think about Android's approach, it's an ecosystem of interchangeable parts. You can have different manufacturers, chip makers, app developers, multiple storefronts. And so just as developers had to choose between iOS, controlled environment, and Android's openness, enterprise teams today are facing a similar challenge and a similar choice with AI infrastructure. But unlike consumer devices, enterprise AI systems must balance innovation with governance, scale and security, and agility with compliance. So here we're at a bit of an inflection point, and AI is dividing into two similar camps. You've got closed ecosystems controlling the entire stack, and then you've got more modular components that you can mix and match. So for enterprise developers, this choice determines whether you are building on someone else's terms or you're creating an architecture that can evolve as both AI technology and your teams mature. And as we've all seen over these past few weeks and months, AI technology is evolving at a crazy, crazy rate. That's difficult to keep up with, to be honest. But APIs are the connective tissue of the supply chain, and enabling the modularity that makes enterprise AI both powerful and governable. So API management is AI management, and they work together. So we're going to do another quick poll now of who actually, oh, my slides, yeah. So when we talk about AI governance, we often get stuck in on the high-level ethics and alignment problems. But today we are going to focus on something that's relevant now. So who actually controls AI in your enterprise? We'd love to hear from you. The architectural decisions that you make today will determine your AI technical debt for years. So a flexible supply chain approach really helps future-proof your investments. So I'll just give that poll a few more seconds to see who is governing and controlling AI in your teams today. When we speak to customers, it's a real mixed bag. Sometimes it's over in the IT team, sometimes there are specific AI teams, sometimes it's getting passed over to the engineering teams from somewhere else. So it's a real mixed bag. It looks like that's the case as we're getting these results back in as well. Just give that a few more seconds for you guys to finish. Okay, so I think you guys can see the results there. So yeah, really mixed bag there across engineering teams, IT teams, compliance teams, and other. Feel free to put in the chat who the other ones, who are that other group are that are governing your AI in your organizations at the moment. That'll be really interesting to see. For us, we think it makes sense that this is that AI governance happens across the organization. However, we think that the engineering and development teams are the ones that currently have the tooling in place to be able to really govern the AI supply chain effectively. So I'm going to talk now about 3 critical enterprise considerations when it comes to AI readiness. So the first thing here is vendor lock-in and lack of flexibility. This is something that most IT managers will be familiar with now. Flexibility versus vendor lock-in is always a point of conversation. So the SaaS playbook's kind of clear. You build an engine, you surround it with features, and you make it hard to leave. For enterprise developers, a supply chain approach means that you can focus on creating value rather than reinventing infrastructure, and choosing the right components for each use case instead of forcing every problem into one vendor's solution is something that's really important. What happens when a better model emerges, when your strategy shifts, all of these changes that are happening in AI at the moment. Composability, we feel, is not just a nice to have, but it's a strategic choice that you need to make. The next thing is security and compliance. So who owns your AI outputs? Models are black boxes, and once data leaves your network, it's beyond your control. Shadow AI is already happening. Employees are using unauthorized tools that can expose your organization to data leaks. Everyone wants to use the latest and greatest AI tooling at the moment, and it's really hard to govern that within organizations as people are wanting to get on those tools before the next big thing comes along. So as an organization, you're looking to keep sensitive information under your control, but still leveraging those best-in-class models. And then the last thing we're looking at is operational efficiency. So you've got CIOs everywhere kind of saying we've got AI POCs scattered across departments, there's no central oversight. And unlike traditional shadow IT, which is limited usually to the technical realm, AI isn't limited to just that one department anymore, it's everywhere. You've got your people teams, your HR teams using AI, you've got your marketing teams, your operational teams, your development teams, your product teams, design teams, everyone is using AI, it's everywhere. Um, we like to think of it a bit like federated API management, where you kind of reach the point where you think you use what you need, but just tell us about it first. This approach requires visibility and standards to be embedded into your AI supply chain and the hallmarks of a well-structured AI supply chain. So the four key components that form the foundation of enterprise AI adoption are these four. So we've got vendors, which is where the actual AI models are sitting. So OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, etc. Then you've got the interfaces, so where the applications that AI is actually used. So that's where your chatbots come in, your developer tools, your enterprise dashboards, the assistants that you use. Then you've got the data, so the lifeblood that actually makes the AI useful, and that can come from your internal documents, your customer interactions, your logs from your applications, and many more. And then you've got tooling, which is the governance layer, so the monitoring and the security and the compliance around AI usage. And what's important is that all of these are connected through APIs. The APIs are what standardize the interactions that enable the composability and the modularity between these elements. And all of these components will come into play when you're trying to add value or improve a performance or process. And these are the building blocks of AI tooling. So if we take a real world example here, imagine a financial firm deploying AI for customer support, an AI chatbot as an example. They would need a model like GPT-4. They would need an internal knowledge base for reference. So that would be all of their internal documentation, their previous customer support tickets. And then they would need compliance guardrails to ensure the accuracy of the answers that are going out. These components are a pipeline and they work together to create value. And that is what we are calling the AI supply chain. So in every other industry, you've got manufacturing, software, shipping, etc. Supply chains enable specialization and flexibility, and we think that AI should work the same way. So I'm going to hand over to Leo now to talk through some examples of how that works in two specific cases.
Cool. Thanks a lot. So, let me give you some examples. Overall, like we evolution of the two models of the AI supply chain. So it's initial like a point-to-point chain, and the more complex and like a scaling like point-to-network chains. And I will give you to like more details on it for each of those models. So like a user to LLM, you can think about it as what's called ChatGPT experience. So you have a user doing some work, you have some interface, in this case, like for example, ChatGPT, you're talking to LLM, and in process, you also like need to have some data to it, you need to have some like tools like internet search and so on. And essentially, like when you're talking the interface, it doesn't have to be always like a chat interface or similar. So if you're talking about like engineering, like a cursor or similar, it's technically speaking also interface, but the model is still the same. So like it's a user who gives the tasks, and like while gathering this data, usually with RAG and tools like LLM performs some job. And the next slide. Right, so like, and the next like is a more complex, like essentially user to agents, agentic flows. When some work is happening, it is triggered not by the user, by some event. And the simple example from our day-to-day life at Tyk. So we have integrated AI code reviews, and like whenever we submit the pull request, it triggers event which runs agent, which reviews the pull request and details. It's using some tools actually to like get the data and so on. So, but it actually can be like a like a more complex stuff or more simple stuff like processing the invoices and things like that. So. And in all of the flows, you can see that it's actually also all pipes together. So have an agent talking to another agent, that agent talking to another one. So like it gets actually quite complex and sometimes even impossible to actually track the full, like supply chain, like where use data coming, etc. So, and that's essentially like what we're trying to address as well. Can you go next, please? So, essentially, there is no like any new technology invented here. In a sense, like interaction between the interface, LLMs, etc. It's still some kind of like APIs. And in a lot of the cases, it's actually like standard HTTP APIs or call to some like microservices. And even like MCP tools, which is like a hot new shiny thing on the market. In a lot of the cases, they're just like a wrapper for some HTTP client, which like talks to it. And uh, for sure, like we'll have with the time more and more like a usage like this and less like a human direct usage. And overall, like I personally think that like API usage will actually skyrocket like 10 times because you can do more work. You can upload it to this like tools, to the agents, and even like if you're using like a point-to-point interface, and this like the whole API economy will just like grow bigger and bigger. Uh, and the standards like Open API, Async API, etc., they will be still like as relevant as ever. So like you will still need to have the clear structure of your APIs. You'll still need to understand what exactly you're exposing and how. And this like a MCP on top of it or agent to agent will not change the core API usage here. It will just multiply it. And if you have like issues with your supply chain, it will also multiply those issues as well. Next, please. So if you're talking about, what is like a call to like a LLM or similar, we can see here you on the screen, you see the standard like OpenAPI HTTP request. You can see like we can set the model, we can see like messages, tokens, context, what you're actually sending. You're sending the tools, and for example, if you're talking about like a MCP or similar, this actually will be exactly the same format. So like MCPs, for example, will be also used as a tools. It's just like as the way how this tool is executed and function changes. Uh, it's all, but underneath, it's still some API call. It's still HTTP call somewhere, and it still has the Swagger Open API, and so on. So underneath classical strategies, and that's where API management and like what we're going to show like a Tyk AI Studio, etc., really shine as well. It because in context of Tyk AI Studio, for example, we deeply integrate to analyze those like specific fields for the AI calls, to extract this metadata, to give you the full analytics, audit, and all. Can you go next, please? And so we had to put the slide for the MCP because it would be like a a crime not to mention it. Everyone talks about it, and mm, from our perspective as API management as well, we need to ensure that APIs of our customers who use the Tyk will still be relevant in the AI era. So that it be very easy to use it with AI, automatic MCP wrappers and things like that. And we maybe briefly cover it at the end of the session after the demo of the AI Studio as well. Uh, but essentially, if you're talking about like a MCP, it's while it's some kind of like a facat, which maybe works with some like a JSON RPC call to some tool, inside of the MCP you still have action logic, which in majority of the cases, as I mentioned, like doing actually some API call. So let's say you have some like a MCP to use Atlassian. What's actually inside? Inside just HTTP client, which calls the Atlassian API. And the benefit which MCP brings to this, like the whole supply chain, is unification, standardization on how different vendors can provide their connectors. So essentially, it's like a standardize all of the connector integration market, and it's not like maybe the best protocol to have or similar, but we've got what we got, and the main thing here is that like it got a real adoption, and for sure like we will be on top of this on this as well. And next slide, please. And now like actual agentic flows. So this is like a more complex diagram, but essentially here like a A2A protocol, which is like a recently released protocol from the Google for communication between the agents. And to put it simply, MCP is something which how agent talks to the world, and A2A is something how you talk to the agent, or agents talk to like between themselves. And from my like a point of view, I think like it's very cool idea, and it actually brings a lot of value to the market, because it allows like vendors like a Salesforce, like a HubSpot or similar, actually introduce the official experiences in the AI with like a tailored for completing the job, and you will be able, I believe, in the future, like go to the developer portal and rent some like a virtual employee from the HubSpot, from the Zendesk or similar. But underneath, under agents is basically some like script with a loop which calling some of the tools. So like it's not a magic, but because of this like a new MCP standardization, it becomes like a much more simpler and easier to use. But we still have this like a complex chain with communications, which we still need to somehow like track and understand how exactly our data used, how it's moved out of the boundaries of like our network, and all of the stuff. And yet, we still need to give the people latest tools and the whole governance piece, etc. It shouldn't stop the innovation and progress. Okay. So Sophie, back to you.
Thanks, Leo. Always good to hear from the technical person, everything under the hood. So all of those things that sit under the hood there that Leo's just gone through, the tooling, the data, the agents, it's all kind of data, workflows, automation. But at the bottom of it, it's still kind of all managed and supplied at the end of the day by humans. And that means that it can get messy and that it will get messy. Which is why we need to talk about what is going to be best for enterprise. So I'm going to go through now how a composable AI supply chain should work for an enterprise. So the first thing is choice. Companies really need the ability to swap AI models or providers without major disruptions. This can be challenging at the moment for several reasons. You've got different API types and different clients, for example, AWS Bedrock versus OpenAI. There are behavioral differences between models. So you've got something like GPT-4, which is a kind of pre-thinking model versus something like DeepSeek. And then you've got alignment and bias management that varies by model. So for example, fine-tuning to manage bias in GPT can't easily be transferred to another vendor. So your governance model really needs processes and tooling to make swapping LLMs easier. And that's why AI supply chains and where different vendors provide specialized components are critical. Then we've got confidence. So businesses must ensure AI is used with the right data by the right people using the right tools, not just handing everything over to one vendor necessarily. So your proprietary data, so your customer data, your product data, your market data, your operational data, that's where the real value of AI lies. So you really need a good governance framework with standards and tooling that will provide confidence that data that is sent to LLM vendors isn't ending up in training sets or logs outside of your organization and therefore outside of your control. And then the third thing is changeability. That really goes hand in hand with choice, or you can think of that as flexibility. but that doesn't begin with C, so we didn't use that one. Flexibility means building workflows that don't force your workforce to completely change how they work. This is something we actually believe in our product and the way that we build product at Tyk in general, not just around AI, but our whole API management product and ethos is really around flexibility and working with the way that you work, not forcing you to work in a way that we think you should work. AI is so easy because it's like talking to a human, but chat is not a great interface for procedural work, and you want to integrate AI tooling anywhere that it's needed. So as we see standardization of inter-LLM interactions and LLM world interactions, we're reaching a critical point where enterprises can unlock value through specialized providers in the AI supply chain. So in your AI readiness decisions, ultimately, you need to find out how you can embed AI seamlessly into your existing tools and processes and not the other way around. So everything that we've spoken about so far, we'd love to hear from you again with another poll is based on everything we've discussed, what do you think would provide the most value to your organization when it comes to AI readiness, AI governance, etc.? And once we've covered this, we'll dive a bit more into how Tyk can hopefully help you with all of this stuff. A few more minutes for people to complete that poll. Okay, I think we have got some good answers in there. Okay, I think we'll share those with you now. So again, a really good mix across all the different capabilities here. Centralized AI portal coming up top, audit trails and compliance reporting. Yeah, one of those key governance capabilities. Integration, budget tracking. Okay, yeah, really interesting. Thank you for participating. Okay, so coming on to Tyk. So at Tyk, we have AI-ready API management, and we have a comprehensive suite for integrating, managing, and governing AI alongside traditional APIs. So looking at this diagram here, we've got the AI access points on one side, AI components on one side, and then in the middle, we've got Tyk governance and management layer. So if you are familiar with Tyk, you'll be familiar with most of these components anyway. We've got a couple of new ones. So our AI Studio is our new specialized AI tooling component. And we've got the Tyk Governance Hub, which is our new governance hub for overseeing all of your APIs and soon AI interactions as well. But AI kind of goes hand in hand with the API management, as we've been discussing throughout this webinar. So with the Tyk API Gateway, we will have MCP server integration in there, security enforcement, that's where the standard rate limiting and quotas happening, traffic routing, protocol translation. Then we've got the Tyk dashboard, which is where you can do the actual management of your API and AI. So where you can have your API and AI configuration, your policy management, some analytics and monitoring. And then we've got our Tyk AI Studio, which Leo is going to demo for you in a minute, where we can do budget controls, overall governance, model connections, and safety thresholds, privacy filtering, all that kind of stuff. And then we've got the developer portal. At the moment, you can expose, discover and onboard developers to your APIs. And then we'll have an AI element in there as well, where you can also expose your AI services or agents. And then the governance hub, which gives you the audit trails, the usage reporting, the compliance reporting across the entire Tyk product. And so this enables a number of use cases for both internal and external AI management, which I think Leo will talk a bit more about as he goes through his demo as well. So for example, internal AI experimentation with controlled access and budgets. This is a key use case specifically within Tyk at the moment as well. seamless transition from POCs to production, secure exposure of AI capabilities to external developers, making existing APIs easily consumable by AI clients, exposing official company AI agents securely. So all of these use cases are things that you should be able to do in your AI supply chain, utilizing the Tyk product components. And all of this while maintaining governance, security, and the great developer experience that you get with Tyk. So I'm going to hand over to Leo now to do a demo for Tyk AI Studio and the other AI components that we've got. So as we've just seen, AI integrates with and sits across the entire Tyk platform, tackling multiple areas of the AI supply chain. But the specialized AI foundations sit within our AI Studio product. It provides a governance gateway, flexibility to use multiple AI models without vendor locking, security-first AI adoption, and API to AI tooling support, including MCP. So I'm going to hand over to Leo to get stuck into a demo.
Thank you. 1 second, let me configure it. Let me share my screen. Screen. I think, yeah. Can
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah, we can see it now.
Cool. Right. So before I actually jump to the to the demo, just like a quick overview of some complex flow and how it all fits. So mentioned by the Sophie. So we try to tackle all the parts of the AI flow. And now let's imagine you have a team who is building some AI tooling, and the initial aim is to actually publish it to the public and give your customers a way to use it. Let's say some agent or like a AI chat on the website. I don't know. And first of all, the first part of the job is to give your internal people safe access models. And this is where it will happen in the AI Studio. You will be able to set the budget, governance, audit, and etc. And now when application is actually built and ready to be exposed to the public, that's where a Tyk API gateway comes in, because it's APIs, and Tyk API gateway is specialized in doing it in a secure manner to avoid it getting DDoS or similar, rate limiting quotas and this kind of stuff. And while doing it, if you want to expose some of those components to the AI, like MCP, so similar, like Tyk Governance Hub will show you recommendations, and you will be able to configure the set of rules where to see what you need to change in your API to make it work better with AI, like a clear naming, like some missing fields and things like that. And if you actually want to expose it to the people, to the developer portal and self-serve, then in the developer portal have an option, for example, as accessed classically with REST API or via MCP. And today we're going to show you the part with AI Studio, and I will try to make it also day in life of the Tyk employee, because we actually use this internally a lot, and we have given access to everyone in the organization. We built a lot of things with it, and so on. So I'm currently in my single sign-on, we're using login, and a AI Studio, some a glitch with icon. It's actually just a part of what everyone can access to if they're part of our work suite. And here you can see the actual view of the dashboard. It's a real data, what we actually what we use daily. I can see as an admin right now how many active users there are, how many chat interactions. I can see my costs, how many we spend per day. I also can see it in the context of the usage of the token, or for example, how efficiently we use prompt caching or similar as well. So we tackle all of this small nuances to read this metadata, and it works across all of the providers. So no matter what you use, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, Gemini, or similar, basically we have a layer which standardize it and reads it from everywhere. I can see it a cost. I can see even individual usage, for per application. I can see that this a person has spent 50 cents, and that's many tokens. So this is like how it looks like from me as an admin or like as a like IT person to see the analytics. But it's way more than this. So you can see on the top that like we have the chat, AI portal, and like administration part. So we can think about it as a separate components. So um, and which can be actually enabled or disabled separately depending on like a role-based access. So if I have like a non-technical people to whom I want to give like raw access to like language models or to some internal tooling, I can use the chat. It is kind of like a chat GPT, but it's internal. And it also has access to like internal tools as well, which is really easy to build. And I will show like some examples of it. So you can see that I can actually access my like a Jira or Confluence or similar. I can actually probably each room has a specific access of the tools. Some of them like a predefined, and it enables like very interesting flows because like when you start combining all these like internal tools, I can literally tell like my here in the chat like find this Zendesk ticket information about this ticket or from this customer, then find the attached Jira ticket or maybe multiple Jira tickets and help me to summarize like what's the current situation with this like work, like what was latest actions was done, and it will automatically call all of those tools one by one until the job will be done. And you can see here that like I have not only tools, but I also have the data sources as well. So, and we will cover it a bit later, but essentially you can think data source as a, for example, vector store, where you can like like a database where you can have some content pre-processed. And in our case, we have like a daily job, which puts the latest version of the type documentation into the, like a vector store using the embeddings, etc. And you have tools which can dynamically like a search internet, access various like internal or public systems, and so on. And each chat can be tailored like for specific needs. I actually have like people coming to me and saying like, please automate my job. I don't want to be like a FAQ person. So like how this work, how that works, etc. And each time you give them like a now we can say that if you have a questions about this topic, go to this room. It knows everything about it. It's tailored for this. It has a proper prompt. It has the needed documents attached to it. It has access to the required tools and so on. And now we're going to like an AI portal. That's like where you can give access to the developers to use the latest APIs. So let me find some of the API, and what I can see here, sorry, application, that I have access to the Anthropic gateway. I have my secret, I have some budget set, and what I can do is I basically can take the secret, I can take the Anthropic gateway API, and I can just use it in my tooling. So like here you can see the example of how I use it with VS Code. It's like, for example, for internally for the engineering, I recommend using the RU code, which is like an open source like extension for VS Code with bring your own key. And you can see that's like it points to my AI gateway. It has my API token, and I can set budget per developer. I can see all the analytics, and they can safely build all the applications. And I also can control who has access to what, including the data sources and also privacy levels, which I will show you in a minute with where it also gets very interesting. So now it's actually administration part. So when you're talking about the chat and AI portal, they kind of like optional components. If you want to, you can enable them. And for example, if you want just like to create an application with a token and to give someone, you don't have to use the AI portal. You can do it through the administration screen as well. So all starts with configuring LLM providers. So in our case, like we are a UK company, so like and we're working with the banks, with against huge enterprises. So like we have a lot of obligations, and we have a lot of like ISOs to follow, and we need to ensure that like during the audit, like we will pass it, and no like there will be no data leakage and so on. So OpenAI, for example, for UK company as ours, it's very hard to pass through the IT actually for the private data. It's very focused on the US market. So like our IT department says it's like it can be used only for the public data. And you can see here, privacy level 0, and I will explain you in the moment like what it actually means. But for the Anthropic, they actually have the legal presence in the UK, and for us it was very easy to like approve to use it with for all of the use cases, including the private data. And one more, like we also have the self-hosted version of the Llama for like a confidential data. So like we will take very seriously. So privacy levels is an interesting one because it allows you to control to which data your language model has access to, and your developers or like people who use the chat, like they can use it. For example, let me show you the tool like Jira. So it also has a privacy level. What it practically means is that if you will try to use the Jira tool with OpenAI, it will tell you error. Like I can't do that. Like my privacy level doesn't match here. So you see where I'm going. And also model pricing and like a usage analytics is actually quite tricky in the modern LLM world, because like things change fast. You can have some custom contract with provider with custom prices, or they can slash prices like 50% for some mod, and or some new model released which is like not yet even like available to us. So like we allow like to configure everything from manually. You can change it, so full control of the pricing. And I already briefly show you the tools, but we also have the data source. You can think about it, the vector databases and the file-based sources. So for example, you can either use like a data source, in this case like a Pinecone vector storage database, but you also can actually have the file-based data sources, which will have some automatic data chunking mechanism, and you can basically upload the file, and AI Studio will chunk it for you, upload it to the database, and then you will be able to use it with your sources. And one interesting thing about this data sources as well is that we provide like a AI gateway, not just like for the LLM models, but also for the data sources. So if you actually want to give the your developers access to some of those like data sources, you still can do it with AI portal, and they will have a special link, some special API where they will be able to query the data from the sources and access to it, and you in full control. So as I mentioned, like you can expect the classical role-based access here. So you can have the user groups like marketing, commercial, etc., and you can say like to which LLMs, data sources, tools they have access to. And if you look into like individual users, we can also see like to what kind of like access we allow to them, like admin access, portal, email verification, and we can control the groups. And also like as actual like also governance piece, filters as well. So you may want to ensure that's like some specific data patterns, like a PI data, etc., will not leak. We know this like no matter how you tell the people like just like don't put this stuff, private stuff, to this chat or similar, they still can do it. So you can actually figure the filters. They can either be static or like fixed ones, sorry, or dynamic ones. So in this case, this is a dynamic filter, which is actually using our Llama in a confidential data model with a prompt. And so basically one language model checking another language model if it's like it looks like a PI or not, and it reject it. And if, for example, I will go to some like a chat with I will tell it something like okay, it's taking a bit longer than expected. Here is my banking card number. Yeah, see that like it's actually like a violation of the rules, and it used some like a simple like a scripting language And you can define some regex or similar, or as mentioned, like a call another LLM to validate those rules. And you can also like manage various secrets, like your tokens, etc., in the super safe like secret engine as well. And now, as an administrator, I also can see all the applications created by my users. For example, let's open this one. It's actually mine. I can see the full analytics for each application, how it's used. I can, so in this case, like to which like it's pretty big because like I'm using it a lot. And I also can see the logs, and I can export these logs as well. So like from the compliance point of view, that's like exactly what I would expect it to have. And now you can expect the same for that you can and also the same for the users as well. So like if I as a user I will go to, for example, to self, I can see also the chat history. I can see like the logs of like what I was working on and so on. So and now like the chat part and the tools part. And so I can see, for example, let's open Tyk product questions. So again, I can see the full analytics. I can edit it. And here what we see, we can obviously like control the like a system prompt. We can attach various filters if you want to each this room. We can control like what language model is used for this. We want to also use the RAG and the data sources and how many results we want to read. And I want to use the tools as well. So in this case, like I allow default tools. I want it to be enabled by default, like our conflict search and internet search. And if I want to, I can actually also upload some additional files, like a PDF file or like some Markdown, etc. Like whatever I want to be used. Some real example, like which we literally like created like a chat few days ago. We actually it's not visible for me right now here. But so we had a Leap conference recently, and we wanted to generate a lot of content out of it, etc. So like we get all the transcripts from for all of the talks we had. We put them as a context for this chat, and through some prompt engineering, we gave access to everyone in the company, including the sales. So now we can have the consistent message, generate some emails, content, and ask questions about API and AI governance. And it's all based on the real talks, on the real data, what we audit. So a lot of use cases we have right now. And this is like a catalogs. This is something which is also like AI portal. So you can see those like I'm exposing the following language models and the follows to my catalog. And the final part is the tooling. So the way how we actually build it is very similar to the custom GPTs if you use the chat GPT. It's essentially based on the OpenAPI spec, and it's super simple to do. Like all of those tools, like a Jira, Confluence, and so on, they actually were like created like in like a 30 minutes maximum. So how it works is that essentially you upload the OpenAPI spec, you add some like a prompt, tell what kind of operations you want to have access to, and you configure the authentication. That's all you need to do, and it automatically convert ready-to-use tool inside your uh, inside your chat. And one more thing, like we were talking about this like a MCP stuff and where it's all going, and we like, a few products in this direction. So one of them is actually very recently released API to MCP tool. So it allows you to convert any Swagger API to the working MCP. And moreover, it also allows create your own MCPs. It can be used like a SDK. So for example, here's like a branded mm, MCP which you can use. And the like I just need to specify custom like a Swagger file and a few prompting tricks to make it work. So we can post link to this. And also recently we also released some other things, some other cool MCPs, like which allow you, for example, to expose your company knowledge as a bunch of like a markdown or similar, actually as a MCP with a search inside it. It gets very, very powerful. And when I use this kind of like MCP, I can use it with your existing APIs, what you already have like with the Tyk gateway. You don't really need to like have your own MCP server or similar. You basically just like need to expose your file, point it to like your base URL or like a hard code this base URL inside your branded MCP, and it will, like as you can see, like it converts it to the tools. You can ask the questions for these APIs and so on. Right. So I've tried to like fast to keep some time also to like for some question and answers. So feel free to like I would be very curious to see what you think about it.
Yes, thank you, Leon. And I know it's a lot of information to take in. So I can imagine for some of you, it's about, processing some of what we've seen today and before you maybe ask any questions. But like Leon said, this is something that we're keen to just get general feedback on. So if there's also something you want to put in the chat or a use case that you want to test Leon on, you can put it on the spot now. Please go right ahead. And if we don't get to it now, then we can pick up towards the end. Sorry, Sophie.
No worries. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Leo, for that really great demo. As he said, and as Emma said, we'd love to hear any questions and any feedback that you would like about the product capabilities. So to close off, we will leave you with this. AI is the new electricity. It's terrifying and it's got promising future, even just in its current state. We know that AI is already extremely powerful when harnessed correctly. However, enterprises do need a structured supply chain to harness this power effectively, and ultimately it'll be the business use cases that will drive proliferation. The future should not be one AI to do everything under the sun. It's AI working with structured, governed ecosystems that will help and bring us forward. So if you're thinking about AI in your enterprise, the question isn't which AI model should we use, it's how do we structure our AI supply chain to stay flexible, secure, and scalable. And I hate to tell you this, but your AI supply chain is an API problem. So come and talk to us because we know APIs and you can't have AI without APIs. Over to you, Emma.
Great, thank you. So yeah, just we're coming towards the end of the session now, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who has come today. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you, Sophie and Leon, for taking us through, like I said, so much content. Like I said, I think sometimes with these things, there's so much changing, there's so much happening. It's a lot to take in. So don't worry, there will be a recording of this session that goes out next week. You'll also get a sneak peek at our next ebook, which is all around AI APIs and the path to AI readiness. And we're going to just pop one last poll, if you wouldn't mind answering it, just to know how we can help you next as part of this journey. Also, if there's any final questions, this is the time to have a think and pop them in the chat. We've still got 5 minutes if there is anything. Otherwise, please do let us know on the poll, and we're happy to reach out one-to-one. I think on the next slide there is yeah, there's some, oh, that was the one, Sophie, sorry. There's some contact details, so if you want to get in touch with any of us individually, if you want to ask Leonid via LinkedIn, please do contact us. Great, thank you so much. And I think the only final thing to let you know is that our next webinar will be all about Tyk 5.8, which is OAS native API management for secure, interoperable, and governance first API experience. That's going to be on May the 8th, so get it in your diary now. If you use the QR code, you'll go straight to the landing page where you can sign up. And that one should be back with Buddha once he's feeling better. So thank you very much for your patience today as we've run through this. And like I said, let us know if you've got any questions one-to-one, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks very much. Thanks, Sophie. Thanks, Leon. Oh, sorry. Just noticed a question.
Yeah, I think it's just popped in.
So that's, I'm not sure if we're between Sophie and Leon who wants to take that one, but that's from Dan. Thank you, Dan. Beyond the consumer, which major AI studio is best for enterprise amongst Anthropic, OpenAI, or DeepSeek?
So which, yeah, Leo, that's a question for you.
Yeah, I mean, like, it really depends on the context, because like the actual, like, question is, like a bit ambiguous. In a sense, like a Tyk AI Studio allows you to configure any language model. So the actual use is depends on the task and your like requirements, like including the compliance requirements and so on. If you're fine with using the like a DeepSeek, that's like totally fine, and you can configure it in the AI Studio. In our case, like we picked the Anthropic because like it's easy for us, and they have amazing models for like code generation. We use it a lot as well. So yeah, it's really up to you. We are not forcing, as like as usually with the Type products, we not try to force you some way like to do it. We give tools which you can leverage to like use your own data, your own APIs, your own providers. And how you will use it, it's like up to you. Hopefully it makes sense. Like, but if you can clarify the question also, yeah, it will be great. Cool.
Great, thank you. Thanks. So sorry I almost missed that. But I don't see any other questions. So in which case we're just about time. So thank you again, everyone, for coming, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.